This is in the locker room. This is before the game ended. Before the game ended. She comes out in the locker room and posts this. Like, what are we doing?
Sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, is anybody on this team gonna stand up for Caitlin Clark? JC Sheldon grabbing Caitlin Clark all game, clawing at her. It's like tonight was a brawl, folks. Tonight was a brawl, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, is anybody on this team going to stand up for? And Sophie Cunningham.
What happens when Sophie Cunningham decides to go full-on enforcer and turns into Caitlin Clark's personal bodyguard on the court? Let's just say absolute mayhem. The game spirals into chaos, the Connecticut Sun locker room turns tense, and Sophie, she's out there dishing out confrontations like it's a 2-for-1 special. This wasn't just a response. It was a takeover. Sophie didn't clap back. She activated superhero mode and came for everyone. If you thought things were fiery before, just wait. This meltdown had more heat than Angel Reese's entire social media feed. Buckle up. This isn't just drama, it's a WNBA saga.
And let's start with the play that set off the entire night. So as you guys can see here, JC Sheldon is guarding Caitlin Clark. She swipes her in the eyeball. Caitlin Clark nudges her off because JC stays in her face. And then Tina Charles runs over and is kind of wagging her finger in Caitlin Clark's face. And then Marina Mabrey comes out of nowhere and chucks her to the floor. Now let's watch this in slow motion. Here, JC Sheldon is guarding Caitlin, swipes her in the face. There's one. Going for the ball, swipes her in the eyeball. Caitlin's gonna have to start wearing goggles. And then Caitlin pushes her off of her, like, why are you still in my face? Marina Mabrey, bat out of hell, chucks Caitlin Clark.
The moment Sophie Cunningham stepped onto the court, the entire WNBA should have called their insurance agents because Sophie wasn't there just to play. She was there to handle things. And by handle, we mean turning into Caitlin Clark's personal security detail. Every cheap shot, every sneaky hit, Sophie was there, shutting it down like she was guarding royalty in the middle of a brawl. Forget BASKBT, BALL. This was protection detail with a side of buckets.
Welcome to WNBA Fight Night, or as some people are saying, WNBA Raw. What a game that was. We had it all. We had basketball, we had fighting, we had blonde on blonde crime. Oh, such an epic. Oh, goodness. But at the end of the day, it resulted in an Indiana Fever W. 88-71, taking care of business.
Forget teammates. Sophie Cunningham's out here moving like a Secret Service agent with a side hustle in demolition. Take a swing at Caitlin Clark. Suddenly, Sophie's in your face like a surprise WWE tag-in, ready to ruin your sneaker deal. And your dental plan? In one motion. Try bumping Clark after the whistle. Congrats! You've just summoned the full force of a pro-level enforcer who's got a reliable jump shot and zero patience for nonsense.
Let's start here. This is, of course, Sophie and Sheldon going down the floor. Sophie tries to wrap her up, and Sheldon gets to the floor, and all hell breaks loose. And Sophie said, I'm not having it. I'm not having it. We'll go. We'll go. So there's that. That, of course, was all a byproduct of this right here, folks. And I mean, when I tell you social media is setting the WNBA on fire right now, not in a good way, that's the understatement.
Sophie S. Not out here asking questions, she's handing down verdicts. The court turns into her courtroom, and every opponent gets the same sentence. Maximum pressure. This isn't just protection, it's domination by proxy. She's mastered the perfectly timed shoulder check, the stare that drains your confidence, and that unmistakable try-me posture that makes even the league's toughest vets hesitate before crossing the three-point line.
Of course, Marina Mabrey is going to get ejected because that was unwarranted. She literally came out of nowhere and chucked Caitlin Clark. There should be a flagrant one, of course, on JC Sheldon because she swiped her and hit her in the eyeball. Whether it is intentional or not, you can still have a flagrant a flagrant foul called on you, whether you are trying to intentionally hurt somebody or not. But this is what they called, you guys. This is what they called. Caitlin Clark, Marina Mabrey, Tina Charles were assessed with technical fouls on Tuesday. Caitlin, Marina, and Tina Charles. Technical fouls. That's it. Technical fouls. That's it. And JC Sheldon was assessed with a flagrant 1 foul, and no players were ejected.
She doesn't wait for things to get heated. She senses the storm before it brews. It's like Sophie Cunningham has been eavesdropping on the opposing team's group chat all week. The moment there's even a hint of tension, she's already in motion. Forget the post-game pleasantries. She's not here for handshakes, warm-up chats, or fake smiles. Sophie runs on one setting: protect Caitlin Clark at all costs. Cross that line, and you're crossing her. She's not just a teammate. She's a walking, talking siren that screams, "Don't even try it." While others are meditating or bonding over playlists, Sophie's doing silent threat assessments with every glance. One wrong move near Clark, and it's game over before tip-off. The WNBA isn't used to this kind of fierce loyalty fused with pure intensity. Sophie doesn't float into games with calming energy. She marches in like she's daring someone to give her a reason to erupt. And when she's around, sideline reporters grow cautious. And teammates, they're just grateful she's on there. This isn't something you can coach. It's instinct, raw and real. It harks back to a time when defenders guarded like nightclub bouncers, tough, unapologetic, and always ready. Sophie's revived that spirit, repackaged it in modern defiance, and made one thing crystal clear: disrespect isn't tolerated, not for a second.
I feel good, and Sophie Cunningham put me out on a high note, folks. I didn't even say, Ben, calm down, regroup. I didn't even say that. Let's get straight to the play. Everybody, the plays everybody is talking about. First off, Marina Mabrey body checking Caitlin Clark to the ground. JC Sheldon all over her. Riding her. Pokes Caitlin Clark in the eye. Oh, man. Caitlin Clark needs to start wearing goggles, folks. Caitlin Clark's going to need to start wearing goggles. Bumps up on Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark says, "Get your hands off me." And then here comes Marina Mabrey. Boom! Exploding Caitlin Clark like a safety coming downhill in the NFL. There was no flop there.
The WNBA hasn't felt this kind of fierce no apologies loyalty in years. Think Dennis Rodman vibes if he traded hair dye for a glare that could melt steel and added a zero tolerance policy for passive aggression. Sophie Cunningham doesn't just step onto the court, she catapults into the action, practically daring chaos to bring its worst. Now let's talk fact. Caitlin Clark didn't just enter the league, she entered with a target the size of a billboard. Forget Rookie of the Month, she's been the lightning rod of the month since day one. And it wasn't just defenders going at her. Whole teams seemed to treat her debut like an open challenge, circling like it was hunting season and she was the prize. Some opponents came with strategy, others came with baggage-old feuds, jealousies, and unresolved beefs that had nothing to do with her, yet landed squarely on her shoulders. They weren't just trying to block her shots. They wanted to break her will. But there was one thing they didn't count on: Sophie Cunningham, watching every second like a hawk that skipped breakfast and showed up starving. She's not just backup, she's a full-blown security system with sneakers and a mean first step. And if you mess with Clark, you're not just playing basketball anymore. You're playing with fire.
Early, about a minute and a half into recording this reaction earlier, with 1 minute left, and all hell broke loose between JC Sheldon and Sophie Cunningham, and it is very clear the Indiana Fever, some of these girls on this team are finally fed up. Once again, WNBA, we're not talking about your basketball. We're talking about the WNBA WWE Raw circus that you got going on right now, and we all know this incident with Sophie stems from the incident that was clearly not handled correctly by the WNBA and the referees.
What the league failed to realize was just how fast one woman could draw a boundary line and dare anyone to cross it. Sophie Cunningham didn't just defend Caitlin Clark, she built a perimeter around her, and anyone who stepped too close got reminded that this court has consequences. While Clark handled the spotlight, the noise, and the never-ending scrutiny, Sophie handled everything else. She became the enforcer with a steel will and a long memory. This wasn't about padding the box score, it was about making sure Caitlin never had to brace herself every time someone came in hot with an elbow or attitude. Behind the scenes, teams were plotting and whispering. On the court, Sophie was lacing up with invisible brass knuckles, ready to shut it all down. The league may see Clark as the future, but Sophie, she's the present-day firewall. And here's what they all missed. Caitlin didn't come alone. She brought Sophie with her. And Sophie's not the type to simply walk a teammate to the locker room and call it protection. No, she tears up the root, flips the script, and makes sure everyone who even blinked wrong knows they made a mistake. Because for every cheap shot Clark takes, Sophie answers with a response that echoes not just physical, foundational, and the best part, it's all caught on camera.
All right, enough is enough. You know, at some point, the line gets crossed too often where something needs to be done and things need to be corrected. And that is certainly the case with the way things around Caitlin Clark are officiated. This is a constant problem now. You know, it is something that since the beginning, I've kind of like backed off on because physical play is a part of sports. You know, going after a superstar and trying to rough them up a little bit to get in their head is a part of sports. But when it crosses the line, the referees need to do their job.
When the Second Son players tried to get slick with cheap shots and shady screens, Sophie Cunningham didn't hesitate. She went full throwback, old school enforcer mode. No apologies, no warnings, just pure, unfiltered payback delivered with a ponytail and a stare that could freeze lava. She didn't think twice before stepping between Caitlin Clark and the chaos like she'd been waiting her whole life for a moment to go full Terminator. And make no mistake, this isn't an act. Sophie's not putting on a show. She's not here to play along with the "it's just tough" defense excuse while someone's trying to fold Clark like a lawn chair. If you're bringing bad energy toward Caitlin, Sophie's already there laying down a screen that borders on illegal and radiating enough intensity to make league officials consider retroactive fines